Once again, another episode of Tape Eaters. This time we'll try not to be rabid dogs barking over each other, I'm thinking. Try to do a real tight stream here with lots of good information. Not used to that, huh? Shocking, right? Yeah, I bet. We've obviously got Greasy here, who is the resident wild man. Yes. I've had him muted for 2 days.
Thank God.
I've been screaming at you for 3 days. Okay.
Matt, we're not doing this tonight. Oh my God. Who else is here? We got Shakti here, the esteemed guest. What's up, bro?
What's up, dude? Anybody ever tell you that you sound like fucking Jim before?
Oh yeah, I've gotten that many times. There's the difference between me and him. He got to retire on all of his fucking Camel menthol money, and here I am sucking another day's dick with nothing to my name.
You're not talking about the EXO dude.
Medicare.
Oh, Medicare? You do have a voice of a few guys. But yeah, go on, sorry.
I appreciate it. Flame is here. He'll be in at some point. I would want Mud to be in here because we're gonna have a very spiritual discussion, I'm thinking. Which
he's not coming.
Oh God, I'm praying for him. I'm praying for him. I'm doing 5 prayers in honor of him that he might arrive. Whatever. We got the Christmas season upon us. It always makes me feel a little bit more spiritual. The love of Jesus flowing through me. And though I've never been a church guy, I am most certainly a Jesus guy. Shakti, how do you feel about Christmas and the season upon us?
I'm feeling very, very, very mirthful, and I'm feeling very hopeful for the future of our country as we unite together to celebrate our European traditions. As long as you have the 4th, 5th, and 6th jab, and then you'll be able to celebrate with your family.
So, what do you think? Do you think we're all going to wind up in camps over this, or is the 10th vax going to spike the civil war? It's going to happen, go down finally.
Honestly, it feels like the elites are like almost too pussies to like do that for some reason. You know what I mean? It seems like none of them. It seems like they're really disorganized. Nobody wants to like take responsibility for anything. They're all like pointing fingers at each other. And it seems to me that they're really having a problem advancing an agenda like as a whole because nobody wants to sack up and like be a good
cutting out on me, brother. Do the worst
of
people.
I would say like the opposite. I think that if they were to invoke like a kind of concentration camp, there'd be like a whole like, oh, they're Nazi kind of uprising.
Yeah, they're afraid of that too, for sure.
Yeah, I think if they were to actually do something, they would provoke like even the boomers would be like coming out of the woodwork, right? I hope so. If they did something,
that the people in charge are very intelligent, but they have no wisdom. And yeah, I think they know what they're doing. They know they have to drag it out. They have to play the long game. They call it incrementalism, one step at a time over generations. But I think there's a lot of elements going on that have like accidentally been seeded in the elite. They're maybe not in the elite, but on the peripherals of it, like with voices that are almost mainstream, where they're taking things way too far, way too fast, and it just pisses people off. And that's kind of the wild card, I think.
You see them do
critical
that.
Mass.
You definitely see them do that. I don't know if you guys remember. It wasn't too long ago. It was after the horrific tragedy that occurred on January 6th.
God damn! All the lemons that died on my D Live. My God.
Yeah, never forget that. But I do remember something like in like the way you're talking about like incrementalism. I remember there was a bunch of videos going around on Twitter, and it was like this big scary little short montage videos trying to paint like Trump voters as terrorists, and it was like literally from one of the intelligence agencies, if I remember correctly. And they were like, if you see something, like report it. And they were like trying to create this like weird like kind of, I forget what they called it in Eastern Germany, but kind of like Stasi kind of thing, where like if you saw like your relatives posting some conspiracy theories, that you should like report them to the feds, and that kind of caught a bunch of backlash. So little things like that come out, and you can tell that they are trying to like test the waters with that shit, but they're way too fucking pussy to do it. And also I get the sense that they're just way too fucking unorganized.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would hope that's
Yeah.
the case at the end of the day.
The
They really are.
self-reporting works to an extent, but like that's as far it goes. Like as far as Facebook, maybe.
Well, I think
You know what I'm saying?
even it's
Like
possible
nobody
that
has a pussy.
the primary like focus of that might not even necessarily actually getting people to narc each other out. While that's a benefit, I think it's a good way to turn everybody a little bit schizo. Everybody's a little more paranoid. I think that's kind of the climate we're in, is that you have to be a little paranoid if you show your politics or spirituality or even philosophy or any of this stuff outwardly, because you're going to offend somebody. And it's just, I don't know, it just sucks being out in public more and more is how I feel.
Bro, I don't know about you, but the climate when I go to like family gatherings and shit, it's like as much as my family is able to just put that kind of shit aside, there is there is that like schizophrenic climate. Like my grandpa, for example, big Trump guy. Best Thanksgiving I ever had in my life was after 2016, after Trump won, because a couple of my family members are like that I love are like more left leaning as much as you can get, like in a more rural area where I live.
Yeah.
So, me and my grandpa, we were like, dabbing each other up, like, yeah, Trump. And I remember him like shaking my hand, like, rapprochement with Russia. Like, we were all stoked. It was a very cozy Thanksgiving that night.
Right.
But other than that, like, it is really schizophrenic. I feel like going to family gatherings and shit, because you can tell like who is for what, and there's like this kind of tension in the air there. Don't bring up politics. Don't bring up politics.
Yeah, and when they do bring it up, like what I hear is all the Q shit, I mean, from people who never heard of Q in their life, talking about how Trump is the shadow president. JFK Jr. is still alive, and he's from Jesus bloodline, and he's going to be the second coming. And this is like normie politics almost at this point. That's fucking horrifying. These people have they did not do any of the footwork to be talking about conspiracies on this level. Like, they weren't some jack off, just like I grew into this shit, and you fucking push these people off the deep end right into the fucking abyss. Like, what the fuck is going to happen to their goddamn minds? They're terrified.
Well, there is no like middle ground ever anymore. No middle ground. There's nothing. Even if you're like a right wing dude trying to like talk to a normie or a left wing person, like where are you gonna start from? Like, there's nowhere to start to build middle ground. I guess,
I think we're being conditioned to, you just want to kill the other side. This is how you
Right.
destabilize. You make sure everybody just wants to kill the other side. And I think that's where we're at, no matter where you stand. The Republicans are thinking it, the Democrats are thinking it, then the people on the extremes are obviously thinking it. I think that's what they're trying to instill in us.
It just sucks having family members that I've known my whole life that like think I'm like a piece of shit now, because I didn't say exactly what they thought, I guess.
It reminds me of what we were talking about, like back in the old days of like the Patriot Act, talking about how like this is how first they start with like the Muslim terrorists, but then the next thing you know, it's your next door neighbor, and it feels like more of that.
Yeah, I think a lot of us back in the day, I did at least, kind of thought that there was going to be some time in the future where these things, the national security state, was going to be like all that shit was going to be used against Americans. Right? Alex Jones definitely was talking about it.
I still believe that's coming.
Well, that's what they use that for.
We're like there now.
All right,
now,
cool.
like 10, 15 years later, like we're there. But
about the climate of drone strikes.
Yeah, they're fucking coming. Hell. Like,
they're coming.
In 10, 15 years, like, oh, you don't have your COVID vaccine? Okay, drone is incoming. But you mentioned that they're kind of prepping us for, like, going to war with each other. I know it seems like a strange, like, fever dream, but back during the BLM riots, remember, like, it was, like, right before Kyle Rittenhouse thing, there was, like, people literally that was, like, there was an active, like, fucking kill count going on in Portland.
You talking about that the place in Portland they had like zoned off?
Yeah, well, around that time, remember like I remember like excuse me, I remember going on 4chan where like some MAGA dude like shot a Antifa guy, and then like
Jesus,
the Antifa guy got there was like an active like going back and forth with actual like political like assassinations going on. So that was happening, and then I know. I guess they were managed to rig their the election and calm the climate down a little bit. But yeah, there was like a moment there where there was like a fever pitch where it looked like it was about to become like real like hot like civil war in a lot of these areas.
Do you think the country'd still be on fire if Trump would have won? I think this place would be still burning down. I think like there'd be a lot of shit happen if he would have won.
They weren't about to let him win at all. There's no way in hell.
That's what I was saying. It
would have been bad.
The grassroots support was missing, and at that point, I don't know if the election was stolen or not. It easily could have been, and there's no way they were going to let this shit fly.
The platinum deal just like came out like right before he was about to get like if he would have been. You guys aware of the platinum deal
for the blacks?
Yeah, the $500 billion to blacks right before he like ran. It's like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Okay, like way to triple down on something. Like, I'm glad. I was always I was a Richard Spencer fag at that point, not even knowing it. Like, accelerationist. Let Biden come in and let all the boomers like freak the fuck out. Like, let them see you.
Well, you know, with that, we might have wanted that. You know, I wanted that, but with that, you know, during the election, I think the Dems were kind of freaking out about this, but Trump did make massive inroads into minority groups during the 2020 election. So that policy of pandering to them, it did work. I can't read out the numbers off the top of my head, but with blacks and Hispanics, like Trump did better than any Republican in my life.
That's true, but is that?
Yeah, but he lost.
That's not really like a.
He lost a bunch of white votes because he appealed. He lost a bunch of white votes.
Specifically, it seems like the grassroots thing is what put him over the edge and made him the guy.
I mean,
so that's.
I'm not shilling for it, but I'm just saying that's been like the Republican strategy ever since they lost with. What was it when they had the autopsy report? I think the autopsy report. They said they need to appeal to Hispanics. That was where you got Yeb running out speaking Spanish and shit. Yeah, it was after 2020 or 2012, I think, where the GOP decided that their game plan moving forward needs to be to pander to Hispanics.
Yeah, they need to go. That's why the GOP needs to go, dude. They're done.
Well, you know, politics is real fucking fake and gay right now. It's really. I haven't even spent much time even thinking about it anymore.
Oh no, it's done, dude. We all realized a while ago it's just a fucking.
Yeah, I mean that's what we're talking about here. Is that it is a psyop. It's meant to drive you crazy, away from the things you should be focusing on. And I don't know. With that, we could probably take it in a more spiritual direction. Shakti, could you tell us about yourself? What do? You got a channel with some fucking clout, brother?
I do. My YouTube channel is Shaktipat Seer 2. I started out just kind of like you guys, I think Yak mentioned, like, you know, old school like conspiracy head. Like I got into like the whole conspiracy thing. And that kind of led into like me getting into the new age stuff. Hated them really quickly. I kind of joined like this new age like cult, I think. I didn't realize it was a cult at the time, but it kind of was a cult. And it was an online cult, like, but
okay, I want to hear more about this, but that can probably wait.
Yeah, me too. His guy's name, his name is Rise of 5 on YouTube, and he made these like kind of trippy like videos, like kind of like channeling kind of videos, talking about, you know, chakras and aliens and all that kind of stuff. But the way that he worded things back then to me was impressive. But now listening to like the way that these channelers and people talk, if you really like pick apart what they're saying, all that they're doing is just applying flowery language to describe like conditions that exist. So they might be like, oh, well, in the future, you're going to see polar forces of interdimensionality move against one another to create a shift in consciousness. It's like, yeah, that's what happens like every day. That's what happens.
Talking about a thought process that like formulates itself into you like doing something with it.
Well,
right. Yeah,
it gets very vague. It gets very vague, and they're definitely trying to sell books.
It's vague, but they what they do is they use like these buzzwords and flowery language to just describe like how the world works naturally, or how how the material world works. Regardless,
things that are already worded far better than they could do.
Right. So that shit it was interesting to me. Just and I think what kind of put like some things together in my head originally before I even started making content was I saw like the type of people that were on this. There used to be a really cool like forum type website. It was almost like a social media website. It was called Wet Paint, and what it was almost like you could make your own Wikipedia, and it had like forums, it had chat features, so you could create your own little community like with a forum, and then you make like a little Wikipedia out of it, which has like information and stuff. And so that was the first thing that I got into, and I noticed like all the users, like he was on Blog Talk Radio, and like it was cool to like interact with these people. And I noticed like with all the users, like they had all this like Eastern like symbolism in their profiles and shit that didn't really like I didn't make the connections into my head before that these things had to do with like a certain type of, I don't know, spirituality or way of looking at the world. So yeah, that kind of made it click in my head that this kind of stuff was like interrelated. And he went and he did like this he went and he did this project where we were supposed to make our own wet paints, like our own little like community websites, which I thought was really cool. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do that. And so I made my own. It was called Enlightened Awareness, and I made my own. And I got a bunch of people involved in it, and I really enjoyed doing that. Put together like a bunch of like Western occult stuff and a bunch of articles and shit, and made my own little branch off of it. But the dude like interrupted the project like midway. Like he shut it down because I guess what happened was that he wanted everybody just to copy his website so that he could sell his DVDs. So
that's a great tactic.
Right. That pissed me off. And I have like a little bit of like a rebellious streak in me against like these kind of cult leaders, and it kind of stemmed from that. So I sent a big like server wide like or forum wide message to like the people that were a part of it, and I told them that this guy's a cult leader and he's a big bullshitter and stuff. And so that kind of broke up his little cult operation for a while. But anyway, so after that initial encounter, I really got into meditation. And so I had just started getting into meditation, and I'm outside, and at the time I had a I had a nice little cannabis garden out here in Northern California. I'm outside in my garden. I don't think I was high at the time, might have been a little bit, but I'm sitting outside and I'm like just meditating very basically. And I had a mystical experience that I had no precedence before at all. Like that I'm sitting down, I'm meditating, and it felt almost like that there was this like thunderbolt, or like this bolt of energy that came over the top of my head, and it went through my body, and it was just overwhelming. I felt like that I was like a little like D-volt battery that was trying to like handle like a nuclear power plant or something like that. It lasted only for a couple minutes, and I could feel like I felt viscerally like the little pinwheels of electromagnetic force that are called the chakras and whatnot. So that was my first like profound experience with spirituality that made me really devote myself to it. And along with just like feeling those kind of like energetic like things in my body, it gave me this very blissful awareness and kind of a different like view of human nature, and a different view of what what we are and what we're capable of, and that really inspired me. And I went to sleep that night, just like really, feeling very, very blissful, very peaceful. Kind of like reorganized my mind and my emotions into, I guess, some more like enlightened or clear like state. But when I woke up the next morning, when I woke up the next morning, I felt a little tingly sensation in between my eyebrows, and I was like, "Okay, what is this?" And as I kept meditating and practicing and studying and eventually teaching, I this energy had spread around my brain quadrants. I could feel like different parts of my brain like alighted with this like electromagnetism, and it's nothing at all that I had felt before at all. Like not like rushes of blood or anything like that. It was actual like some kind of like um electromagnetic force or something like that, like magnetic kind of spinning like feeling, which it made my mind like very concentrated and super conscious, and gave me like samadhi, gave me like this very like profound capacity to meditate deeply. Like that always went hand in hand with my capacity to get into meditation. So um yeah, I started studying different stuff. I didn't want new age stuff because I saw that these people were all fake. So
It
the
sounds
first
like a
thing that I
lot of
did,
those people had experiences like you. Like David Icke has a very similar story about like the energy flowing through him out in the desert and God speaking to him and giving him a whole new perspective. And he's the
yeah,
reptilian guy, if people aren't aware.
yeah, I
David
know
Icke.
David Icke.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm sure you do. Yep.
yeah, absolutely. This a lot of people that I am friends with very recently. Now that I've gotten into Tibetan Buddhism, we just took an empowerment or like initiation ceremony from this old Tibetan Lama. His name's Garchen Rinpoche. Very interesting gentleman. He spent 20 years in a Chinese internment camp, and he said the only thing that I worried about when I was in this Chinese internment camp was that one time I almost got angry at my jailer. That's what he said. So
Wow.
he's an amazing mystical like old lama, and he's kind of been very cutting edge with doing tantric Buddhist initiations and these type of rituals over the internet.
What is
So he's made
Tantric
them.
Buddhism? Can you I hate to ask these long tangent loaded questions, but
Sure.
I feel like people need to know that.
Okay, yeah. So tantric Buddhism is, it's bas- it's basically it's a sect within Mahayana Buddhism, within general Buddhism. It's sometimes it's called esoteric Buddhism or secret Buddhism. It's all about these like internal energies and ways of practicing that you can use to achieve enlightenment in one lifetime, rather than
Okay.
practicing in an exoteric way. So
I think almost
uh,
from a Western perspective, and I know this isn't accurate technically, but it's almost like a left-hand path of Eastern mysticism. I think
it
very
is a left hand path.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you can go on with the initiation you were talking about then.
Yeah. So a lot of people that I've gotten interested in Vajrayana or Tantric Buddhism recently, we've taken some empowerments or some initiations from this gentleman, this old wise Tibetan guy, Garchen Rinpoche, and like at least a half of a dozen people that I've talked to have had a similar experience when they've gone through these tantric initiations. They report either feeling, that this kind of energy going through their body, or they've seen like lights and visions while they're going through the process, or otherwise like having very powerful dreams related to these tantric deities or things like that. So yeah, that would be like similar to what a lot of people like David Icke talk about, where this kind of alien force comes in and kind of changes the way that you perceive yourself and perceive the world and human capacity for enlightenment.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going off on like so many tangents, but
No,
this is like a broad topics.
I want your story is what I want right now, and there's some things that I think require an explanation before we go forward. But what I really want is your story, and I intended tonight to talk about Prabhupada and the Hare Krishna movement. How did that come into play for you? I know you have experience with that.
Hmm. Well,
cutting out, brother.
My bad. Do you want me to continue with my story, or I could kind of
Give me whatever you're doing. Please carry on with whatever you're doing. I'm glad to hear it.
Sure. Well, I could lead it into how that I got into Hare Krishna. Okay. So, again, continuing where I was like talking about. So, you know, this was like, you know, revolutionary to me. But somehow it was also very intuitive. You know, it didn't seem like it was so as strange as it should seem. Like, you know, we're led to believe that, you know, all this stuff is just woo woo and doesn't exist. But when it actually happened to me, and when I was starting to, you know, see visions in meditation, see visions of I don't know, higher dimensions or whatever, and, you know, feel this, you know, I would call it now winds or pranas or vayus. When I was starting to feel these things in my body, like, it was revolutionary and made me into a totally different person, made me into a better person. But it didn't feel as unnatural as one would think. Like, and that's really strange, because I think that a lot of people kind of intuitively, even though they might not have had the experience, I think they kind of just say, yeah, you know, I could see that maybe there is some kind of spiritual energy that human beings have. I guess, you know, people that kind of believe that there's something more to their consciousness, like a soul, or people that believe in God. Yeah. So it's surprising how natural that this kind of process can be. But anyway, so what I did, I made a YouTube channel, and I started with just getting whatever I could download from, at the time you would usually like torrent it, you know, back in the, it was like 2009, 2010. Yeah. Just like whatever I could get just from torrent
shit.
That's yeah, just re-uploading shit. Yeah, that's what it was. So yeah, I was just re-uploading whatever I could get. A lot of Alan Watts lectures, just
me too.
Whatever was on. Yeah, hell yeah, Alan Watts is a fucking guy.
Yeah.
So whatever I could get my hands on, like, I would upload it. And I started to do, like, I had a Skype group back in the day when Skype was a thing. And so I would do guided meditations in groups with people on Skype, just because I was so gung-ho about this total revolution in my consciousness that had happened, and I just wanted to share it with everybody that I could talk to.
The zeal of the convert, I think, is what they call that. You see it in everything,
absolutely.
Politics and all sorts of
I was
things.
incredibly zealous. Yeah, I was incredibly zealous. But I was zealous for this natural, like, process, this, like, I don't know, alchemical process that I was experiencing. I was zealous for, like, that, you know, that this is like the evolution of human biology, even though that I didn't have the words to, you know, explain myself or express myself. I felt like that what was going on, that I was like evolving into something, you know, higher than a monkey. But anyway, so I was doing a lot of guided meditation groups with people, and here's a strange thing. So while I'm doing these like guided meditation groups with people, they were telling me that they were feeling tingling sensations in their forehead. They were telling me that they were seeing visions and seeing neon lights and things like this, which is kind of associated with these tantric practices. I know a lot more about it now, but at the time it was just like I had no clue what was going on. But so I found out that there's this word called Shaktipat. That's where I get my YouTube name from, Shaktipat. That means basically that when someone when someone has gone through this process, or when they've been kind of alighted, you know, with the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, the Kundalini, that it's possible to transfer it to other people. So that had started to happen with people, that they were getting like a transmission from these meditations that I was doing with them. So then I got really into, like, I'm from Silicon Valley, so I grew up playing with Photoshop. I was
wondering, you seem to have an inclination towards like alt tech and that sort of thing, which I kind of share, but that's not surprising now.
yeah, I grew up playing with this stuff when I was a kid, and looking back, that was like, something that I was probably being guided to do, because when the time came that YouTube was very new, I was able to use my like very rudimentary skills in media creation, music editing, video editing, graphic editing, to make content
Yeah.
that was able to like transfer this like this spark, I guess. I don't know how to call
This
it.
vibe.
The vibe,
I don't
yeah,
know.
but
Yeah, there's no
a
words for
spark
it.
of sparking this kundalini thing in your body and making it become active. So even now, like if you go to my channel and you look at you go to like some of my playlists that have to do with this type of thing, there's a lot of audio stuff that I did, like remixing myself with like music and chanting mantras and like remixing it into a kind of meditative like loop. um like I think it's on my playlist called Pineal Gland Activation. And if you look at the comments, you'll see people commenting saying like all these things like that they felt or experienced or like see these lights or whatnot. And I know it sounds way out there, and it is pretty way out there. But yeah, so actually, side note, that term pineal gland activation that Joe Rogan and shit uses a lot, it was around like 10 years ago. It was like a thing on the internet. But when I first made a video describing my experiences, I made a video called Sacred Secrets of Pineal Gland Activation, and it got 1 million views on early YouTube, like when 1 million views was a fucking lot.
Yeah,
So,
I remember that. I was reposting Bill Cooper stuff and getting 250,000 like in pretty short
yeah,
order.
that was a fucking lot back then.
Yeah, back in the good old days when you could post anything, it red pill the fuck out of you.
I miss it.
But, dude.
So I made this video and I included my contact information at the end of it, and it got a lot of people interested, and that kind of set me up to go into like I made like a small business around it. I was making a good amount of money with some paywall websites and making content and shit. This was like before like Patreon, so it was really difficult.
Yeah.
But I got a lot of interest in it, and I still to this day, like I think that video is what created the pineal gland meme. Because like I said before, that video, like the pineal gland meme, it was around, but after that video, then it really blew up, and that became like a meme, like activate your pineal gland. So I do take credit for making that meme.
Were you a Terrence McKenna guy back in the day?
Oh, absolutely. I'm still a Terrence McKenna guy. I was listening to him yesterday.
I was activating my almonds. Too busy activating my almonds at that point.
That's based, Greasy.
Gotta activate.
How would you get money, I guess, if I could ask, if like you were saying before Patreon, all that shit, just kind of donation?
Yeah. So I reached a point where I think for like 2 years, I was doing content without, I was so zealous, right, that I just wanted to like reach out and make content, but I'm spending so much of my time on it, right, and like I'm spending so much of my time on it. I didn't want to ask for money. I didn't want to beg, but I just kind of got frustrated, that I don't know. I got frustrated that people weren't like giving me money. I guess.
Right. Well, no, that's fair.
I share that frustration, and I like to frame it more. It's not about people giving me money, because when the setup is there, the infrastructure is there, and I'm allowed to do it, people do give me money.
So right, and we didn't have that back in the day. So, I mean, like I'm giving so much content to people, and like wasn't really getting much back. So I just said, and at that time I was super idealistic, and I'm like, well, this is spiritual, you shouldn't be asking for money, but at the same time, it is what it is. Even historically, or even nowadays, when you go to like my guru, for instance, my guru is an old Tibetan gentleman that lives in Berkeley. His name is Lama Kunga Rinpoche. He's from an aristocratic Tibetan family. He actually physically fled over the mountains. His father was the treasurer for the Dalai Lama before they had to go in exile. He's an amazing old man. Love him to death. If you guys want to check him out, go to Ewam Choden, EWAMCHODEN. I think it's ewamchoden.org. And he does a Zoom guided meditation every Sunday, and his energy is just amazing. The most blissful, peaceful man you'll ever encounter. But anyway, so even him, like before COVID, when he was actually able to give tantric initiations at his little Dharma center in Berkeley,
Oh.
so he wouldn't charge for them outright, but
Cutting out.
Good night.
You right there, bruh?
my bad. So he didn't charge for it outright. It's not like when you go there, hey, give me the money. But it's called a dana, like a donation. Like you said, expected like a recommended dana or donation is $30, which is very cheap for what he's offering. So yeah, back to the point. So when it comes to these kind of services, like historically speaking, you're expected to give like a little bit of a donation to the guy that's doing it. So I don't know. I felt that I was offering like a lot and wasn't getting anything in return for it, spending a lot of money on it. So I ended up making a paywall website, and I transferred a lot of my content to this paywall website. It was called alchemymeditations.com, and it was able to make a lot of good content for people with it, and was able to make a nice revenue stream for myself from that.
Oh, nice. So, yeah, what happens next in the story? So, one more thing. Actually, I do want to ask about this. You seem to have a little bit of guilt about taking the money, obviously. How do you feel about that now in retrospect?
I feel even worse.
But
I feel even worse.
Is it because you didn't think you were qualified at the time?
Oh no, not at all. No,
Okay.
no. But I feel that these things are something that's so sacred and and important that God, I forget it was it Lex Friedman? It was one of these podcasters, one of these guys said I can't remember, it's on the tip of my tongue, but he said it might have been actually Scott Adams said this. He said that when something is like worth so much that you can't even offer like any money for it, like it just transcends value. Like it seems corny to put a price tag on it.
Yeah.
I think he was talking about like some book that some guy had. He was trying to hype it up, but that's how I feel about things to do with spirituality. I don't like the inclusion of the idea of putting a price tag on something which is so deeply personal and so important. So I still feel that same way.
There's like the sense of if someone can give, if they have the money to give, then I think it should clearly be expected something. But and it's hard, you can't discern this online with your paywall in 2008 or whatever the fuck. It can't be done. But it's like then some of the people most in need of it should be getting it for free. But to charge the people who can donate seems absolutely correct.
Yeah. And no, I totally agree with you. And that's how it's handled now, especially in Tibetan Buddhism. Like 100% of the shit that I've seen with Tibetans, like when they're offering a lot of this stuff, there's either like a price tag with like a sliding scale, or either they just say just donate what you can. A lot of the times it's like if you have the money, donate it, and it's such a profound like services they're offering that you will end up donating to them, and they're not lacking money. So that's usually how that it's handled. But then you get like the opposite side of the spectrum where you have all this like fake people trying to market meditation and spirituality, and they're charging up the ass for it. And
well, I could chime in with my father is like very into Tai Chi. Like he was, he's in his 60s. He's like was brought up Catholic, and he's been doing Tai Chi for the past maybe like 15 years, and he fucking pays. I remember when he was paying this asshole, God knows how much a month, to to like watch him while he did, get his shit.
Get him a
and I was
VCR
like,
and some VHS tape.
yeah, I was
happier
like,
for it.
like, god
I don't
damn,
know.
this kind of sucks. I mean,
Yeah.
I get it. And then he got
It's
to
good.
meet
It
him,
helps, it
but
helps.
he was like, my dad. Eventually, my dad was like, I'm not giving that guy any more money. You're like, yeah.
And
But
I mean, and a lot of
that shit
these
kind of
people.
happened. I'm not comparing Tai Chi to what you guys are talking
Well,
about.
I got you.
Tai
But-
Chi as a martial art is completely divorced from what it originally was.
Right, I don't know anything about that, so I cannot debate you about that. But
This idea of I don't know, the greedy guru or whatever we're talking about.
Right.
I'm not sure exactly how to frame this.
well, when
But
you
it
got
almost- it
the Tai
reminds me
Chi guy,
of people, of like street performers who will dress in saffron robes and go about cities, acting like they're pulling off some
Yeah,
city, but it's
exactly.
just.
when you got
it's
the
just
Tai
parlor
Chi
tricks.
guy touching somebody and they like fly back 100 feet, and like my dad is not that stupid, but he still pays. He knows like any person worth like being coached by is worth paying for. So I understand that, and he'll actually meet them in real life because he travels a little bit for his job. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I think he meets like false people, and then he meets real people, and he can always tell the difference. I guess is my point.
Yeah, bro. I encountered one of those fake people last time I was in San Francisco, actually. And this is a funny story. So I was in San Francisco meeting a friend from alt-right friend, actually. And so we were. Oh, I don't. Yeah, no. Neo-Nazis. None of
All
those.
right. No.
Shut up, Greasy.
None of
I'm
those.
Jewish.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But so yeah, we're on a Fisherman's Wharf, and like some dude, like some Chinese dude, comes up and he's wearing like the monk's robes and shit, and he gave me like a bracelet, and he is like wanted money. He wanted some money for it, so I gave him $5. But my friend was like, that guy's just fake, right? And that's not a real monk. And I'm in a Buddhist Discord, and somebody from New York City was describing a similar experience. She said she was in New York City, and like some Buddhist monk like walked up to her and like gave her like a gift, and then like expected money from it. And she's like, I gave him the money, but then I'm like, no, she went to like take it back, so she's like running after this guy, and I was like. I told her about it, and I was like, "Oh, I had a similar experience. He gave me a bracelet." She's like, well, "That was the same fucking thing. He gave me a bracelet."
I had a very similar experience in New York City where I was on the corner and some black dude was selling dime bags or whatever, and he basically stuffed it in my pocket and demanded money. And then I got home and smoked it, and it was not weed.
Yeah, that's when
that's
you
where
rip it out.
It's same with like the homeless guys who like wipe your car windshield when you don't want it wiped.
Well, when somebody puts cocaine in your pocket and expects you to pay $100 for a piece of shit,
just run them the fuck over.
I'm running away with the cocaine as well.
Well, it's like a forced robbery. Like, hey, I just gave you this. Now you know.
Well,
come on, nigga. You owe me now.
Settle down, boy.
The thing about that though is because Buddhist monks are not allowed to handle money. So that's what somebody told me in the Discord server. They're like, no, monks are not. That's against their Vinaya, their moral vows. They're not allowed to handle money. So yeah, they were swindlers pretending to be monks. So yeah, that's the other side of the spectrum. Is you get all these like fake gurus and shit that try to swindle people. So I don't know. It is like kind of it is a kind of tricky situation to do that. But generally, when it comes to the authentic spiritual traditions, like the Tibetan Buddhists, they just say, everybody's invited and please donate when you can, or something like that.
Yeah.
At some point, I want to ask about the. I know this is kind of lame, but the whole like the Yogaville. That came up in like mainstream media, the whole Yogaville thing. I don't know if you know about it.
Yogaville?
They're posers.
Yeah, I assume they all are. They have Shakti in front of their name. If you don't know about it, then we can just skip it. I was just curious if you heard about it. It is, but it was all based on like a Shakti dude.
Go around yoga.
Never
girl
mind.
saying,
Yeah, I
"Do
was
you
just
be-
curious. I was
Do you
curious.
believe in Krishna?" If they say no, blow
Blam!
the brains out.
I was just curious if you knew about it. That's all I was asking.
Do you know what sect that is? know,
Man, it's in shit. It's in
It sounds like some Rajneesh shit, is what it sounds like to me.
I could look it up. I know. I kind of know where it is, and it's all
It's Joe
bullshit.
Rogan.
And it's
Alright.
Joe Rogan is.
no. It's not Joe Rogan.
They all smoke DMT.
It's
Flame,
it's
I wanna
Tiger
give
King.
I want to give you this opportunity to jump in if you have any serious questions about anything.
No, I'm sorry, man. I've been missing too much. Like
Alright,
the
that's
wife
fine.
has been on my
Alright.
back, and
All right, that's
I
it. Let's get back into it.
I choked her out.
All
She will not be bothering us anymore.
Based.
Shakti, where were we in your journey?
Yeah,
think
about
you're-
the point where I put up the paywall. So I could parlay this into the Hare Krishna thing, I guess. So I was into like I wanted everything. I wanted everything from authoritative traditions. I've gone through like phases. I was into Sufism for a little bit. Sufism's pretty cool, but I was into
Yes,
Western
it
occultism.
is.
It is. It
What
is
is
pretty good.
Sufism?
What?
Like Islamic mysticism kind of, but
Okay.
it's more mysticism and less Islamic. Much more influenced by Neoplatonism, by Hinduism, by Buddhism, by Jinn. Yeah, sure.
Oh Christ!
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
Fucking Mud is a Sufi, and he calls me a goddamn Neoplatonist all the time.
Really?
I'm part of the Naqshbandi order. Have you heard of it?
Are you really?
Yeah.
I almost was like I was really interested. I have a bunch of books from them. What's his name? Sheikh Hisham Al Kabani. That guy.
Sheikh Hisham Kabani, yeah.
I love those guys. Yeah, they seem really, really based. Actually, I was very close. Like when I was getting into Tibetan Buddhism, like I had a phase there with the Naqshbandis that they seemed seemed like they had their shit together, and I would be really interested into it. And I ended up not getting involved with them, but highly respect them. Yeah, they're awesome. Well, how did you get involved in that?
So my my uncle and my brother both converted to Islam in '93 along with my mother. And my uncle's the one that got into Sufism by reading. When my sheikh came to the U.S., he was tasked with fighting the Wahhabis, and
That's awesome.
doing dawah, which is Islamic evangelicism.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of magazines he wrote in the early '90s warning about
Fucking
possible
Dora.
terrorist attacks and stuff like that, and comparing our theology to Star Wars and pop culture. And that's how my uncle met the late Grandmaster in a we have a center in Cyprus, and that's where he met him. And then we had a farm. We have a farm up in Michigan, a center up in Michigan. And
Right.
that's where
I've seen
Sheikh
videos from that.
Hisham is.
Thing. So you met you actually met Sheikh Nazim.
He met Sheikh Nazim, and I met Sheikh Hisham around the age of like 8. And I've stuck with him ever since.
Man, you're blessed, dude. You're blessed to have encountered those guys. To me, they seem to be the voice of reason within Islam, if there is one.
Yeah, I have
those guys.
Sheikh Nazim's one of Sheikh Nazim's robes, which is pretty cool.
You do?
Yeah,
Wow.
in like, and if you get in the right state of mind, you sleep in it. Man, things you will see.
That's awesome.
But we were also
Incredible.
connected to the Tijani order, which is a Moroccan Sufi order, and we have Sheikh Tijani's old Ahmed Tijani's old blankets, and I have a bag of a bunch of Sheikh Hasham's beard hairs. It's pretty neat. I keep that on me.
That's wild.
That's awesome, dude.
Great.
That's
Yeah,
really
love those guys. I remember seeing. I think my favorite video that I've seen from Sufi Live, their YouTube channel. It was Sheikh Nazim. Tell me if you've seen this video. It was Sheikh Nazim and Sheikh Khabani. They were there, and some woman was like acting out, and she was saying, how can you put this man right here? How can you put this guy in charge of your order? How can you look at him as like your lead disciple? Because he was like slashing her tires, and like this chick was like making a bunch of drama. And like I remember Sheikh Nazim was like, you woman, shut up. Anyone who believes in me, you believe in him. You have problem with him, you have problem with me.
God
God damn it, Doro.
God damn it, dude.
Hell yeah, dude.
Dog, why are you the one coming in here drunk making an ass out of everything and everyone? Why is it you, Doro?
He's just laughing.
Oh.
Sorry. Hi, fellas. I wanted to make a grand entrance. I returned from a party where I was
Did you unhook the thing that kept your balls in a vice for the last...
Well, yeah, kind of.
Hairball.
Yes, I did. So it was a white elephant party. That is like a Chinese gift stealing party.
You're welcome, Shakti. You get a.
Well, he's my fucking guest anyhow, bro. I brought him on here.
Relax.
Motherfucker. So it is Doro. So like yeah, my auntie, bro. My auntie. She ain't my real auntie, not by blood. But yeah, things took a turn.
Dude,
I know.
No, she ain't no crackhead. She's a very nice. Very nice. She's a tutor, dude. Or like she's
Doro, you're
tutor.
really showing like your juggalo-ness is really coming out.
Yeah, hell yeah, bro. Hell yeah. I try.
Live for the carnival,
Dude.
brother. Die for the pray for the carnival.
I do.
The overlap is too much. I think the overlap is too much.
I had this whole occult idea about esoteric juggaloism and how ICP know exactly what they're talking about when they talk about the totem pole. That's the wheel of samsara. And I think these festival environments are a microcosm of like the greater world. You find yourself getting all fucked up and you're walking in circles and it's like 4 a.m. and you're just trying to find the next fucking thrill. And you get to the lights and there's nothing there. And you walk in a circle until the fucking sun comes up because you're so fucking tweaked out. And you realize that this is the adventure the whole time. And if you weren't loving every second of the walk, you had nothing.
I feel like the only like people who know that kind of stuff are like us who delve into these like esoteric shit. Yeah.
I think you knew that.
The average person would not understand that. They'd be like,
oh, drugs, naked.
Well, through our arduous
of the retarded clowns, bro. That is some sort of
hell
You're a big gathering of retarded clowns.
The journey, our arduous journey, you know, around the theme park or whatever the fuck you want to call it for 6 hours at a time is a very, you know, you're suffering the entire. Right, I am pissing, and I'm drinking too while I'm pissing, and I'm talking. And it's an arduous journey around the theme park. And at the end of the day, you reflect upon your suffering in your tent alone. At the end of the day, you've been with your friends all day getting your ego milked to utterly boosted the entire time. And at the end of the day, you're in your tent alone. And you're thinking to yourself, is my life a fucking joke? I'm just sitting here. Am I the clown? Am I the fucking clown? Is this a goddamn freak show? I'm the sideshow. I'm the main.
The clown.
I am the clown. And it's a very profound. It's a self-imposed humiliation ritual that you do upon yourself, and in no lie, it is like a reflection upon samsara. Like, am I destined to be this fool, doing the goddamn tilt-a-whirl, endlessly, and I'm the exposition here, and they're all gonna laugh at me, and it's a very humbling experience. So I thought it did. It does have some sort of relevance towards the thing, and I was getting a little hot and heavy with my what do you call her? My auntie. She is not my blood. She's not my blood auntie. Okay.
Shakti.
Dude, this is fucking
Shakti,
weird.
bruh.
Whatever,
Yeah,
dude. Let's go back to Shakti.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Kick Doro. Kick Doro.
Mute Doro for days on end.
Don't mute Doro, dude. I got fucking Fireball in my pocket, dude. Been drinking all day.
I've been drinking.
Fine. He's the bound. He balances us out.
Yeah,
I'm on
motherfuckers. You're the sober
spiced
charge.
Christmas
I am
wine.
sober. I'm stoned. I'm not sober. I'm not drunk.
Whatever,
All right,
dude.
all right.
I'm gonna drink for all y'all.
Yeah.
Cloaca to
Oh.
everyone in the audience. Drink up, motherfuckers.
Shakti.
Shakti cloaca is the keyword for drinking the
There's an
beverage
idea
you
of
have in front of you.
segueing into the Hare Krishna stuff. You take all the time you need to do that stuff. I don't know where we were at this point. That shit is
My man.
into the wind, dust in the
Sorry.
wind.
Yeah. So generally, what I've done in my path, which has taken about a whole decade to arrive at where I am now. So I think a lot of people get caught yak or maybe Bhairav or maybe any of you guys like encountered like these people that are into like Sri Ramana Maharshi, like the Advaita Vedanta people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I think I do.
Right. So Advaita Vedanta seems to be it's to me it's like this very first experience when you have like a real penetrative like mystical experience of non-duality where you kind of see like, well, you kind of identify, the little me with like the big me, and you see that there's not really any difference between the two. Like the primordial me, the primordial mind, the original mind, we would say in Buddhism, Samantapadra, like the original mind. The original mind is your mind. Like you are the non-dual with the original mind. Like that original mind is the self. And a lot of people go crazy with that realization. And they tend to just like shun their life and space out and become like schizo and shit.
Yeah.
So a lot of Advaita people kind of lose their mind and lose their connection to what exists with their actual, with their actual life, with their human life, with their jiva, as the Hindus would say, like the karma that you've accumulated, the life that the lives that you live for thousands and thousands of lifetimes. Just encountering that realization very viscerally that that the only original mind that exists is the same one that's in your head. So that is like the non-dual realization that thankfully I didn't really go crazy from it, I don't think.
Why do you?
But
I agree with that. Me and Greasy were talking earlier about how when he was young, he would have these epiphanies of how insane it is to be alive, and just you're talking about looking at your hands, right, Greasy, and just being like shocked that something like you can even exist.
Right.
I was
The wonder of movement.
I was talking about how I think a lot of that is because people don't have a foundation for their beliefs. They don't have religion or philosophy or nature or science or whatever it does that brings you closer to I don't know, whatever the whole is, whatever you're looking for, God as I call it. But I think I feel like I had experiences like that like over a longer period of time because from the time I was a little kid, like I believed in God. And I feel like those are like the pieces that you can put together that to make sense of those things that can drive other people crazy.
When you start talking like that to other people, they start looking at you crazy. I remember
You didn't drive me crazy, by the way.
Yeah, you're my example of a similar.
Yeah, No, but like that's a good example. Like a lot of people go through that. And I remember as a young kid, I would be saying shit like that, and people would tell me I need to stop watching Star Trek, and I was like, I never even fucking watched that shit in my life. So like,
don't knock it till you try it, brother.
I'm pretty sure it's pretty cool,
fucking
but
good, dude.
I'm pretty sure it's cool, but like, you know, like like you saying like you're doubting like like the life you're living.
Doubting,
explain
you're questioning everything.
Yeah,
around
you're
you.
questioning. Not
reference my beliefs as a pop culture reference is like a big fucking no deal. Like, they'll be like, oh, it's just like the Matrix, bro. You know, it's or just like that Samsara movie. Like, no,
I never reference it in a pop culture way.
Yeah,
Good.
but that's why the New World Order puts these pop culture shit out.
Yeah, it's a new religion.
It's to discredit your beliefs.
Going way off into the weeds now, boys. Way off.
Right? Yeah,
I
we don't need to get
there is something to that.
beliefs.
I think there is something to that. I think that a lot of mystical experience, I think, is just has to do with the basic realization, like, why does anything exist? What is the nature
That's
of
me,
this
dude.
thing
That's
called
what
the
I.
self? Yeah, that's the beginning of the path, I guess. And it ties heavily into the end of the path. But most people are so caught up in the kind of polarities of their attachments and aversions. We would call them klesha in Buddhism, attachment and aversion. The polarities of seeking pleasure, trying to avoid pain, and then they kind of get caught in what I call like the human mythology. The human mythology of just being very, very overwhelmed by these things to the point where you almost become like a story that doesn't really examine itself. You just kind of get caught in it. So I think a lot of mysticism has to do with that realization that, hey, why does anything exist at all? And then
why does anything matter?
Well,
or exist? Yes.
Yeah. Why does anything? But then you start to like turn that up upon itself, and you encounter what Sri Ramana Maharshi would call the Atman, or the Hindus would call the Atman, the self, right? This thing, this conscious entity that is all pervading, that's everywhere. So that's the non-dual realization that is, to me, was like the beginning of my path. And I think when you first kind of get caught in that, when you first have like a realization of non-duality or of Advaita means literally in Sanskrit non-dual or without two. You kind of, I think you kind of have a superficial realization of what non-duality is, if I could put it like that. Non-duality is just this impersonal force, this impersonal kind of entity that is the same kind of impersonal, all-pervading thing without qualities, without differentiation within it. Because if it's non-dual, if it's the same, then how can it be different? So then you start looking. Well, let me finish my take real quick here. So when you have like a heavy like non-dual experience of everything being the same, you kind of, and this is where Hindus get in this trap. They call like all of the differentiation within this, they call it Maya, like illusory, like that the differentiation doesn't exist. Like, say the difference between me and my body, my body's just a big illusion, doesn't really matter. What matters is this like indwelling like super soul or Atman, or this self.
Cutting out.
Yeah.
No.
Good stuff.
Oh, my bad. Okay, so my dog is like up next to me right now. So the dog has the same Brahman. The dog has the same Atman, and the body that's around it is just a bunch of illusions. It's irrelevant. Or the gods are the same Atman. So all of the little qualities around the way that life manifests itself, you kind of see those as illusory, and you kind of try to reject them. So a lot of people go through this Advaita period where they reject quality, they reject differentiation, they reject difference, and they kind of focus on this kind of impersonal.
Like science. You call them science fags, right?
I guess science.
That would be me. That'd be me, I
Existentialist
guess,
is what
why
we call
I'm
him.
saying that.
Existentialist, Greasy.
It's a
Kind of.
Let's go
preferred
on with
term.
this.
You
Let's
you
not-
you end up
yeah.
you end up objectifying the self, the Atman, and this is why I'm a Buddhist and not a Hindu. They end up objectifying the Atman or the Brahman into this big impersonal entity that is just without illusion. It's just like this big self, which is has no connection to any of the differentiations and the differences and all of the qualitative aspects of existence. So that's a big trap for these people that get into Advaita. So now, along my path, why that's relevant. So I've always been kind of chasing an understanding of my non-dual experience of like how that the primordially original self or mind, how that it relates to phenomena, how that it exists, how that it becomes trapped in illusion, how that it becomes purified from illusion, what its true nature is. And one of the things that did it for me that was really interesting to me as I was trying to figure these things out was the Hare Krishna philosophy. So brief background on what Hare Krishnaism is. So it started with a movement within Vaishnavism, which is one of the sects of Hinduism. They worship Vishnu. There's Shaivism, Vaishnavism, and Shaktiism. Shaivism is like the more common Hinduism type stuff that you usually see is usually Shaivism. Vishnuism is Vaishnavism is a kind of devotional sect of Hinduism, and so this guy he's considered an avatar of Krishna or Vishnu. His name is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he existed, I think, in the 15th century in Bengal, which I find fascinating because there's a lot of tantra around Bengal, a lot of tantra, which tantra has a lot to do with identifying yourself with the deity and kind of manifesting as a deity. And so Lord Chaitanya was seen as an incarnation of Vishnu, and so he reformed Vaishnavism in this way, which was much less dualistic and more non-dualistic. And his philosophy was called Achintya Beda Abeda Tattva, and that means inconceivable simultaneous duality and non-duality. So when I got into it, it was something that drew me to it was the idea that the Atman or the self is non-dual. It's the same everywhere. It's the same spirit, the same essence, whatever. But yet in the same way, the quality of my Atman, the quality of myself is just like a drop of water considered to like the oceanic, gigantic, mega omnipotent spiritual self, which would be Mahavishnu or Krishna or God. So that was something that really blew my mind and got me attracted to it. So all of these various like deities that the Hindus worship are like they are like various mixtures of different material or spiritual qualities that kind of descend from just one point of like pure spiritual quality, which would be Krishna, according to them. And as it descends down, it mixes with the material structure a bit or spiritual structures. And so we find like that there's like this like axis from the very top to the bottom, from like the highest heavens down to the earth and below, where it's the same Atman, it's the same Purusha, it's the same spirit, but it has different qualities in it, and that doesn't negate its non-duality. It's inconceivable how that it's non-dual and still produces qualities. So in Hinduism, they would call that like the Saguna Brahman versus a Nirguna Brahman, like the divinity with quality versus the divinity without qualities, like that Advaita type of impersonal Brahman that's without any qualities, without any attachment to Maya or anything like that. So I got into Hare Krishna because it made a lot of sense to me that, okay, I'm just like, I'm thinking too much about it, uh, that there aren't any distinctions between myself and God, but the qualitative difference is there. So that's basic like Hare Krishna theology, and it got me really interested in it. Besides, you know, the whole thing of of their approach to spiritual practice. You see them out there with drums and stuff, and chanting mantras, and having like this ecstatic experience of realization of the unity of the self and God, and being very ecstatic about it, producing these divine emotions. So that's how I got into Hare Krishna. But I was like really disappointed by them.
What
It's all good
year are
on
we
paper,
talking?
and
This was relatively. This is like, is this the same leadership that's there now for like ISKCON?
well, when I got into it, ISKCON was basically dead. But ISKCON, I mean, we could go into the history of ISKCON, but when I got into it, it's so weird. Like where I live in Northern California, it's like I live about 100 miles north of San Francisco, but it just seems to be this like fucking nexus of spiritualism. And oh, maybe we have like Mount Shasta up here. You know, the New Age people might be like, well, hey, Mount Shasta is like this global chakra which just attracts spiritualism,
They
but
say
it
everything:
really does.
Bigfoot, aliens, deep underground military bases.
It really does, bro. It really does. Like, okay, so there's a city of 10,000 Buddhas, right? Like almost a couple miles down from where I live, which is huge, like huge Mahayana Buddhist compound, which was it was created by one of the Zen patriarchs, very famous actually in Buddhism. He left the Cultural Revolution and created this compound called the City of 10,000 Buddhas. That's in my town up here. And I'm actually trying to get into they have a university, an accredited university called Dharma Realm Buddhist University. I'm going to apply for it in their next little wave of admissions. I want to get into the formal Buddhist like translation and shit. But then they paid for another one like up that way. There's another one up that side of the road, on Tom Kai Road, where they paid for a Theravada like forest ashram. And then when I got into Hare Krishna, right over...
Cutting out, brother.
Oh, my bad. So when I got into the Hare Krishna thing, like right over there, I'm looking to the west, like right over the mountains, there was a disciple of Prabhupada who had a monastery set up here. So I went up there to make contact with him when I was really serious about becoming a Hare Krishna. And it was great. It was very beautiful. The guy, his name is Swami Tripurari. He was one of Prabhupada's disciples. I have nothing against him. He's great. He caught a bunch of flack for being more pragmatic than these dogmatic assholes would like him to be. But he's a very pragmatic guy, very spiritual guy, very good energy, very good vibe. I enjoyed it. Went up there a couple times to his monastery. Actually brought a couple of my friends up there, and it was great. But what turned me off about it was, so after I brought my friends up there to participate with their programs and stay with them, which I loved. By the way, some of those videos of me when I went up there are on my YouTube channel. And so I went home. I went home after staying with them for a little while, and I get a little DM in my Facebook from the kid that was like the Swami's like secretary, and he's like, hey, did one of your friends like happen to steal an iPhone? And I'm like blown away. I'm like, I had such a good experience with them. I'm like, dude, why the fuck were you asking me that shit?
What the fuck?
I didn't even respond. Like, and before I could even respond, he said, oh, never mind, we found it.
Oh, dude, that's the worst shit. That's the worst.
It was so disappointing. And then I found out later from some other people that they were talking shit about my friends because we're just a bunch of fucking like rural kids up here. So they were like wearing, shorts and shirts, and I guess like they were like, talking shit, and they said that my friends looked like they were bums or some shit like that. And I was like, dude, does it matter? Like, this is a monastery, dog. You're all about God and shit. Why are you
This whole
capping like?
movement comes from Prabhupada, who his whole thing was pragmatism, from what I could gather from him. Like, I love his
Yeah,
teachings because they're
absolutely.
so applicable to everyone. And when he came to America, he wound up in the same scene as like Timothy Leary, and he was preaching to
He didn't give a
schizo,
shit about that
acid
shit.
heads, huh?
Yeah, he didn't give a flying fuck about the poor dirty outcasted kids of the 60s, the acid heads and stuff that ended up finding themselves around Prabhupada and looking up to him. He didn't fucking care about that shit. But yeah, the movement is like, it's dead.
Cutting out, dead.
My bad. Yeah, the movement is dead now, but it fizzled out long before that I took an interest in it. But
Yeah.
yeah, unfortunately, and this I'll complete the story of my whole path with this. So unfortunately, not only did that happen, like that was like the straw that broke the camel's back that made me have to divorce Hare Krishnaism from my life. But not only that, it's just that, like, God bless Prabhupada. I know he had the best in mind when he was bringing this Indian tradition to the West. He wanted to make sure that the teachings were understood in their proper context. He wanted to make sure that there was no room for people to create tangential, like, shit that would be outside of the fold of his actual tradition.
That's
So
why his 80 volumes of commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, basically.
yeah. Right, but it's not just that. It's that the way that he went about and I've read a lot of that. But the way that he went about it is he ended up creating a very dogmatic substructure within the religion. So it ended up becoming very dogmatic, and for good reason. Like, right, he wanted to preserve the tradition as he brought it to America. But unfortunately, I guess I would say that what that did is it eventually ended up leading it to become more of a cult than anything. So I remember when I was at the ashram, I was talking to one of the older guys that's been a part of it for a while, and I told him because I didn't come from a background like this. I came from a meditative background where my practice was always about meditation and kind of analyzing my experience for myself and like coming to my own conclusions. And I told him it almost felt that I had like Prabhupada like in my brain, like, I had Prabhupada like in my brain, like controlling what I thought. Like, you're not allowed to think this, you're not allowed to think that. And I think that itself is very anti the Vedic tradition. The Vedic tradition and Eastern traditions are very much about analyzing phenomena and analyzing your experiences and arriving at jhana, arriving at wisdom, which comes from an individual process of discriminating knowledge for yourself. There's no real tradition of like kind of brainwashing in dharmic traditions at all. It's totally anti that. It's really set up so that you yourself go through the process of analyzing things and arriving at your own conclusions. But
But there is the concept of like seeing your guru as God, not him actually being God, but treating him as if he were God and his words were God's words. Is that not a
Yeah.
tradition?
Yeah, that's
So
even
Yeah,
a thing in
absolutely.
our tradition.
so what the one thing I would say is that I'm assuming that his perspective was that the people he was talking to had no idea about any of this, so he had to give them like a strict basis to follow if they wanted to make any attainment. I don't know if that's right or wrong,
Yeah,
but
yeah, absolutely. And another and I don't hold this against Prabhupada. I love Prabhupada. I think he was an awesome, amazing, divine incarnation almost. I see Prabhupada as a divine incarnation, absolutely. But his task was monumental, and he did a pretty good
what he
job.
accomplished, yeah, in that short span of time. He arrived in America. I think he was like 69 years old, and within like 10 years, he had set up ashrams and schools and all sorts of stuff all over
All
the
over
place.
the world, all over the world, and it got too big for its britches. So I think I can't speak much to the climate of what happened in the very early days when Prabhupada only had so many responsibilities. But I think the problem came when he started to have to delegate power to kids that were not as enlightened as he was.
Yeah, I actually have a quote about that. Prabhupada was asked about succession. So he said, so far as personal association, man, I'm reading the wrong thing. He said that he didn't need to be alive to lead the movement. That his volumes would speak for themselves, and all you would have to do was use that. But that's definitely, I don't think that's what it's based around today. It seems much more of a brand now.
Well, you have people that do believe that. There's this like pseudo sect within ISKCON. They call themselves Ritviks, which is like a Vedic word or Sanskrit word for priest. And these people, like you probably not been around a lot of them, but I'm sure you probably like met one of them two of them before. But there are people nowadays that just wholly do not accept and this has become a big problem in the Hare Krishna movement. There's people around that believe that what Prabhupada said before he died is that he didn't accept the authority of anybody to become a guru after him. So what they'll do is that these Ritviks, excuse me, is that they'll they only use Prabhupada as their authority. And like he said, they use his books, they study his books, and they only accept Prabhupada as an authority. They don't accept the authority of all these other peoples that came after him as gurus, which I don't blame them. A lot of them have gotten into sex scandals. A lot of them have just become, and these are sannyasis, these are monks who have gotten into horrible sex. I mean, the shit is bad. You ever read Monkey on a Stick, Yak?
No, I haven't.
Bro, get that book. It's fucking highly entertaining. Monkey on a Stick.
Oh, I'll pull it up now.
Bro, that book. Oh, it's a page turner, bro. What it's about is like the height of this corruption of these gurus and how bad that it got. It ended up with like, you had God, it's been so long I can't remember their names off the top of my head, but the leader of the New Vrindavan community, I think it was somewhere in the southeast, I want to say Virginia. The leader of the New Vrindavan community, his name was Kirtanananda Goswami. He was outed as a pedophile, did some jail time. He had like this Vietnam fucking veteran guy that was acting as their quote unquote security. And this guy's running around terrorizing people, like literally fucking ended up murdering this guy named Sulochana Das. So yeah, it got really fucking bad. So yeah, Monkey on a Stick. That would be a good podcast for you, bro.
I'll
Stick.
definitely check that out. And that whole sphere is very interesting to me. And I'm assuming that like this goes hand in hand with a lot of the websites I'm seeing that are saying that Prabhupada was poisoned by one of his associates. And I think I was reading something. I don't know. I didn't know enough about it at the time, but I think they were blaming him for that disaster you were talking about, the Vrindavan thing. And then this guy, ultimately, he died in like a car wreck in like Calcutta when his head smashed through the windshield. And they're saying that's like divine retribution for leading the movement astray.
Krishna works in mysterious ways, bro. Yeah, God works in mysterious ways. But yeah, you said a lot. Where were we? So we were before we get into
Monkey on a Stick, and we were talking about the corruption.
Yeah. Well, before we go into Prabhupada being poisoned, okay. So I was talking about the Ritviks. So there are a group of Hare Krishnas now that that don't accept the authority of these gurus, and they bring up some quotes from Prabhupada that said that he never wanted anybody to. Factually, my objective analysis of this, he didn't appoint anybody to be his successor.
Yes. I've seen quotes, very biased sources, but I've seen those quotes that he said that.
So if you want my purely intuitive idea of what happened, I think Prabhupada, God rest his soul, I think Prabhupada was just I think he was so disappointed with how the things turned out. I think that he was like so disappointed that I think his take, before he died, I think his take was that, well, gosh, things have gone really wrong. But if Krishna will lift up any one of my disciples so that they just like show themselves to really be in the capacity of being a spiritual master, then Krishna will handle it. But I do think that before Prabhupada died, I think that he was kind of wary and pessimistic about any one of his disciples being able to take over the movement. So he didn't. There was a big clusterfuck before he died that he didn't really clearly delineate power to anybody. What he did is he set up a governing body commission, these classical, these 12 people that were this GBC. So he set them up as they call them zonal acharyas, which just means they were teachers, not gurus. They were teachers that were set up to take control of ISKCON and kind of manage ISKCON in various parts of the world. You had some in North America and Europe, Africa, South America. But he didn't clearly delineate any of them as gurus. And again, my intuition is telling me maybe he knew that there was some trickery afoot. Maybe he knew that they were plotting on him.
Yeah, go on.
Well, I was gonna say, so the Ritvik people that kind of feel the same way, and I feel so bad for them that they're so lost. And this is why ISKCON is dead now, is because that kind of anticlimactic end to Prabhupada's life and to ISKCON, it didn't produce any clear ways going forward. So you have these people now that are kind of coping, I guess. Yeah, they're kind of coping, and they're coping, and so they say, well, we only take Prabhupada as our guru. So what they do is they try to initiate themselves by listening to the Harinam mantra, or listening to the initiation mantra that from a recording of Prabhupada, and saying that, oh, Prabhupada's my guru. But that's not how that it works. And I have a video, actually, I've uploaded a video on my channel of one of Prabhupada's godbrothers, Bhakti Rakshak Goswami, I believe it was. He was from Gaudiya Math, which was the same organization that produced Prabhupada. He's one of his godbrothers, and he's a very, 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 very sincere person. He seems like a really good teacher. The guy that I saw, Swami Tripurari, he actually knew that person very intimately, and that's kind of one of the reasons why he got in trouble with these hardcore Prabhupadites, because he was associating with these guys from Prabhupada's original Sangha, the Gaudiya Math. You're not supposed to talk to them or whatever. It's so much drama in Hare Krishna, so much drama. But anyway, he was asked a question about this whole Ritvik scenario, and he's like, no, you can't do that. You're gonna put your beads next to a picture of him and then chant the mantra and say that that's your guru. He said, no, that's not how the fucking guru parampara works. That's not how that it works.
Yeah.
For me, we
especially, and the thing is, God, I forget it so quickly. Yeah. So they say that he is their guru, but then when I look at all of the modern material that comes from these people, they scrub all of Prabhupada's hot takes. Like, this is a guy who would openly talk about like shooting communists in the name of Krishna and stuff like that, and talk about a woman's
Yeah.
place and
Yeah.
all these things that
Yeah,
are super based by today's standards, and they make sure that stuff's not available in the literature.
Yeah, as long as
You talking
long
about
as
ISKCON?
Yes. Like I have old books from that Prabhupada wrote, and then I have like new stuff that comes from ISKCON, from like Radhanath Swami or his autobiography from Green, whatever his name was. They get rid of all of the stuff that makes Prabhupada so relatable, and what's left is like stories about Allen Ginsberg. And it's like, please spare me.
Well, I'm not up to date on the drama with Radhanath Swami. I like Radhanath Swami. I think he's awesome, but if you talk to these like Prabhupada extremist types, like there's a guy, I forget his name, but he's a prolific like blogger.
Mukunda Dasa, because he's pretty prolific, and this is a guy who it sounds like this. He does the hot anime crossover of Prabhupada and Hitler.
No. That wouldn't be that guy. I don't think it's that guy. No. I might know who you're talking about, but there's a prolific guy. He goes by the name Pada PADA 1008, and he's just always like just constantly muckraking and talking shit about all these gurus and how they're a bunch of pedophiles, and a lot of them are sexual degenerates and pedophiles. So yeah, I don't know particularly too much about Radhanath Swami. What I do know about that is Radhanath Swami was kind of tangentially involved with the whole New Vrindavan thing. So I think a lot of these GBC types that have taken over the movement, they're very milquetoast. They don't have the ferocity that Prabhupada had. They're very milquetoast and shit. So they you know, they're very aware that a lot of their quote unquote god brothers are degenerates and pedophiles, but you know, they're sitting pretty, they're making a lot of money, and they don't want to rock the boat. So
Radhanath Swami, my issue reading his book was, first of all, the first third of it was about growing up Jewish, and I didn't care about that at all. That's not what I was reading the book for. And then when he got into like stories about his life, he would say things that were almost a little too miraculous, and I hate to just disbelieve, but you're talking about like living with lepers and stuff, and like kissing them, and I don't know. It was like the miracle of Krishna that he was just fine after that, and stuff like that. It seems like it's made for a book, and I have a hard time with it, especially because I don't believe he's a god man. I don't believe that he's out there performing miracles, and you know, I could be wrong about things, but that's not how he strikes me.
No, I agree with you. Radhanath Swami to me seems like a very well-intentioned person, but God man, nah. I like Radhanath Swami, but I haven't read that book that you're talking about, by the way. Again,
It's his first book. I don't remember.
Sounds like he's really comfortable in his position, and he doesn't want to give it up, which is the situation with a lot of these GBC people. But so the GBC nowadays, I was talking to you about this yesterday. I forget what it was that drove me to go and like look up like what's going on with ISKCON nowadays. But I went and I looked it up, and like the GBC now has like it looked at least like they have like at least like 50 or 60 people are a part of the GBC now, which is just totally has nothing to do with what Prabhupada set up the GBC.
Sounds like some sort of gay democratic body.
Gay democratic with the GDB. But yeah, bro, like there's been so much money, and again, like I talked to you about this yesterday. So what I gathered from it, ISKCON is dead in America. It's dead. There's a lot of money in India with ISKCON, so there's a lot of money around ISKCON in India. They have gigantic temples. They have this big like Vedic cosmological like planetarium project, and there's hella money around there in India. So it seems to me that ISKCON in India has been taken over by like caste Brahmins who are like, oh, these white people don't know what they're doing. We're going to take it over. And then you have like the leader of the GBC ostensibly right now. I told you I looked him up on YouTube and he has like 200 followers like on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I don't know how the fuck that happened, but
Yeah.
there are a lot of ISKCONites in Eastern Europe, surprisingly. So there are white people, Hare Krishnas now in Eastern Europe, which are still pretty prevalent. And India has a lot of money and a lot of people involved in it. I was surprised. I saw a music production thing from some ISKCON temple, and I forget who sent me it. It was one of my friends, I think, sent me it. It was like they sent me like this like arati or like some ritual, like some bhajan or some music thing that they were doing in an ISKCON temple, and it looked like a Bollywood production almost, like really professionally done.
We got the dog in chat. Dog
is going crazy. Shoosh.
That happens. I know the
Anyway,
feeling. You're good, man.
So yeah, it looked really professionally done, and which is really weird to me, because usually ISKCON stuff isn't really doesn't look like it's done by a Bollywood production company. So definitely there's a lot of money in ISKCON in India, but ISKCON in India has apparently become just another kind of substructure of like the Brahmin establishment. Doesn't have anything to really, it seems to be, to do with what it originally was. Yeah, ISKCON is pretty dead and fucked and buried right now, bro.
Yeah. Where did that lead you? I'm more interested in your story than I am in going into any of my prepared content. Where does that lead you to when you have to find spirituality in a world where everybody seems like a sham? Not to say they are, but you feel that way.
Where did that lead me when I had my personal interaction with the ISKCON people, and well, I guess they weren't really ISKCON people, but when they accused my friends of like stealing their iPhone.
Yeah. So what's next then?
Okay, so that's the next leg of my spiritual trip. So, like I said, at that point, I was kind of my whole mode is like of a yogi. I'm a meditator. I like meditating. Bhakti helped me. Like, I don't know if you know what bhakti.
I do. It's the devotional path of yoga where everything you do is a prayer. It's all a sacrifice.
Right. Yeah, devotion. Yeah, very, very much.
I love bhakti.
It's a good definition. Yeah, bhakti is great. So, Bhakti helped me to get some balance, like in the meditational path that I was doing, where I was just seeing, Atman, Brahman everywhere, no reason to worship it because it's me also. So Bhakti helped me see that, yeah, there's differentiation within the non-duality. So that was great. But Prabhupada, my experience with Prabhupada, I felt like I was being brainwashed, and that really wasn't holistic and honest to the kind of path that I had been cultivating, and the kind of path that had given me a lot of realizations and given me a lot of progress.
Mm-hmm.
So after that kind of straw breaking the camel moment, where they were accusing my friends of like stealing shit, and then, oh, by the way, no, they didn't steal anything. So I put it down, and for some reason I just had it in my head, let's look at Mahayana Buddhism. So I don't know why that came to me, but it came to me at that time. So I took a look at Mahayana Buddhism. And when you look at Mahayana Buddhism, you're going to eventually encounter very famous Mahayana Buddhist philosopher by the name of Nagarjuna. And Nagarjuna, his whole thing is he's basically the patriarch and the founder of Madhyamaka philosophy in Buddhism. And Madhyamaka philosophy is middle way philosophy. It's a way of understanding phenomena, and how that they're essenceless, and how that things, that dharmas are simultaneously existing and empty at the same time. But what Nagarjuna's writings are really about, it's almost like Pyrrhonism in Greek philosophy. It's a way of like reductio ad absurdum, where you just reduce the consequences to the way that people generally think about phenomena, to the point that they become absurd.
Hmm.
And that's what the main school of Madhyamaka is called, Prasangika Madhyamaka, which means consequentialist. So Nagarjuna's main text, called Mula Madhyamaka Karika, means the root verses of the middle way. If you read it, like, it's a fucking like brain, like logical, like brain puzzle to even go through and understand like what he's saying. Could you pull up? You know what? Could you do me a favor? Like, can you pull up the Mula Madhyamaka Karika? Mula.
Hold up.
Pull it up. Pull it up. Pull it up.
MU.
Mula. Mula. Madhya. Mula Madhya.
Uh-huh.
Makarika. Mula Madhya Karika.
Okay.
If you-
What am I pulling up? Just I got like a PDF here. I got
yeah,
Wikipedia here.
if you could find the whole book,
Mm-hmm.
or like maybe in the PDF it would have it. But
Yeah.
if we could read out like a couple of the verses from the Mula Madhyamaka Karika, I think that would be interesting to the viewer.
I would love to. Start from the beginning or what?
Oh, do you have it open?
I think so.
All
I'm not
right, yeah,
mistaken.
that would the beginning would be the investigation of conditions, I believe.
It starts out, I prostrate to the perfect Buddha, the best of teachers, who taught that whatever is dependently arisen is unceasing, unborn. But yeah,
Continue.
it is right. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, continue.
Unannihilated, not permanent, not coming, not going, without distinction, without identity, and free from conceptual construction. If all of this is empty, neither arising nor ceasing, then for you it follows that the Four Noble Truths do not exist. If the Four Noble Truths do not exist, then knowledge, abandonment, meditation, and manifestation will be completely impossible. If these things do not exist, the Four Fruits will not arise. Without the Four Fruits, there will be no attainers of the fruits, nor will there be the faithful. If so, the spiritual community will not exist, nor will the 8 kinds of person. If the Four Noble Truths do not exist, then there will be no Dharma. If there is no doctrine and spiritual community, how can there be a Buddha? If emptiness is conceived in this way, the 3 jewels are contradicted. Hence you assert that there are no real fruits, and no Dharma. The Dharma itself and the conventional truth will be contradicted. The Buddha's teaching of the Dharma is based on 2 truths, a truth of worldly convention and an ultimate truth. Those who do not understand the distinction drawn between these 2 truths do not understand the Buddha's profound truth. Without a fountain in the conventional truth, the significance of the ultimate cannot be taught. Without understanding the significance of the ultimate, liberation is not achieved. By a misperception of emptiness, a person of little intelligence is destroyed, like a snake incorrectly seized, or like a spell incorrectly cast. For that reason, that the Dharma is deep and difficult to understand and to learn, the Buddha's mind despaired of being able to teach it. Whatever is dependently co-arisen, that is explained to be emptiness, that being a dependent designation is itself the middle way. Something that is not dependently arisen, such a thing does not exist, therefore a non-empty thing does not exist. For him to whom emptiness is clear, everything becomes clear. For him to whom emptiness is not clear, nothing becomes clear. If there is essence, the whole world will be unarising, unceasing, and static. The entire phenomenal world would be immutable. If it were not empty, then action would be without profit. The act of ending suffering and abandoning misery and defilement would not exist. Whoever sees dependent arising also sees suffering and its arising and its cessation, as well as the path. Essence arising from causes and conditions makes no sense. If essence came from causes and conditions, then it would be fabricated. How could it be appropriate for fabricated essence to come to be? Essence itself is not artificial and does not depend on another. So I think this is, going so fast through this is very hard for me to wrap my head around. But what I definitely see going on here is him bringing up what seem to be essential parts of Buddhism, and then trying, what is it exactly? Tell me. I can go on and be happy to. But what is the purpose of that?
Well, what you read, I think, what you read, that wasn't the Mula Madhyamaka Karika, but that is very much Mahayana Buddhist philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
What it's basically doing is deconstructing conceptual fabrications about how that people think about enlightenment.
Yeah.
Like saying, well, if there's a true Buddha that exists permanently, then we can't attain it. But if there's a true samsara that exists permanently, then we're stuck here like a rock or a tree. So that's where you kind of you roll this shit in your brain over and over again until you arrive at the middle way, which is that, hey, these concepts don't really exist in the way that we think that they are, but they can guide you towards an unspeakable non-conceptual wakefulness, which is bodhi or enlightenment. But yeah, I wanted you to go actually read the that was good, but for the viewers, I think I think you would I think the viewers would appreciate some of Nagarjuna's middle way, Mula Madhyamaka Karika. So I DM'd you the link to the text that I was referencing.
Okay.
So StephenBatchelor.org, verses from the center. Pull up hey Jamie, pull that up. Pull up Investigation of Time, for example. I think that would be a good conversation.
Okay. Hold up. Doing stream stuff. Okay. I got this. Don't worry about me, chat. I'm on it. There we go. Oh, Jesus Christ. Here we are. This is the Investigation of Time.
Yeah, read that out.
If the present and the future were contingent on the past, then the present and the future would have existed in the past. If the present and future did not exist there, then how could the present and the future be contingent on it? Without being contingent on the past, neither can be established. Hence, the present and the future times also do not exist. These very stages can be applied to the other two. Superior, inferior, middling, etc. Singularity, and so on, can also be understood thus. Non-dwelling time cannot be apprehended. Since time, which can be apprehended, does not exist as something which dwells, how can one talk of unapprehendable time? If time depended on things, where would time, which is a non... Let me try this again. If time depended on things, where would time, which is a non-thing, exist? If there were no things at all, where would a view of time exist? That is the end of the Investigation of Time.
Right. So the philosophy of the middle way, it's a consequentialist philosophy that that says basically, right, the very first read the verse 1 again.
Can do. If the present and the future were contingent on the past, then the present and the future would have existed in the past. I'll say it again. If the present and the future were contingent on the past, then the present and the future would have existed in the past.
Right. So if we kind of hold conceptually that, and most people do, that the past arises from the present, then the consequence from that would that there would have had to have been a present that existed before the past, before the present existed. So what Madhyamaka philosophy does is it sets you up with a logical conundrum where your mind stops clinging to to conceptual framework about how that reality works. And so what
I need a little clarification here. I think all these little riddles that are meant to deconstruct all of this so that you can see it. I'm not even sure how to express this. This makes me think of almost like it's like the difference between Hinduism and Buddhism, which is
very
like,
much
okay. So in Hinduism, you have your own soul, but that's not a thing in Buddhism, and like it's a very complicated matter, and that's basically I can't even explain the difference all that well. So if you could do that.
Yeah, sure. So the main idea of this is what you read originally before you were reading the book that I was like looking for, was dependent origination. So the main philosophy of Mahayana Buddhism is called Pratitya Samappada. It means interdependent origination. So you can only define something as being tall. For instance, like I'm very tall, right? I consider myself tall. But it's a relative statement because a lot of people are shorter than me. So tall and short exist relative to each other. Past and future exist relative to each other. Without those relative conditions that are dependently originated, there is no such thing. So they exist in a kind of empty state where they don't have inherent existence. They all exist relative to one another. So they're dependently originated. Regarding like the soul, or the self, like, you know, Buddhism is famous for believing in anatta, or no self, because whatever I consider myself is dependently originated. All of the qualities and all of the ideas about my soul or myself, they're dependently originated. There's nothing that stands up about myself that doesn't exist in my own mind. It might exist in an absolute sense, but any quality that I would ascribe to myself is something that's dependently originated. It's something relative to other things. So in that sense,
right? Constantly changing.
Yeah, right. And it changes relative to dependent conditions that arise. So I think why that this kind of philosophy motivated me in a certain direction after getting into the whole trip about non-duality or qualified duality within non-duality is that when I started to read this kind of thing, I was able to like stop clinging to conceptual labels and just let the thing be what it is, and stop trying to put it into a box, I guess. So the first time that I encountered Nagarjuna after my Hare Krishna moment, it clicked to me, and I saw like what Buddhism calls sunyata, like the ultimate reality, which is just beyond you. There's no way to put it into words. And it's one thing to say that, oh, you can't put the absolute truth into words, and it's another thing to deconstruct the way that your mind clings to things in this way.
Yeah.
So I had like a Satori moment. Like I think I always say this. I think for like 3 days almost, like I had an experience of like egolessness for like 3 days, and I was like, that's it. It's this, like Buddhism has it. It's not about like clinging to duality or non-duality, or clinging to God or non-God. It's about ceasing clinging and stopping your mind from trying to make sense of these like logical inconsistent like puzzles.
That's like the implication to me. My next question, it almost seems to fly in the face of everything you just said, but it's like, then what is it? Is everything one? Is everything nothing? Or does it just not matter?
I think that
the same thing.
the way that we describe it in Mahayana Buddhism, we use the metaphor as much as we keep trying to cling to a way to understand it. We use this metaphor called Indra's net. So there was a net cast over the king of heaven's palace, Indra, and in this net, because the gods are very gaudy and they're very desirous, so over this net over the king of heaven, his palace, and in this net there's like jewels arrayed like in every little part of the net. And in all of these like meeting points of this net there's a jewel, and so every jewel reflects all the other jewels. So that's how that I perceive that I think that if you had to ask me to like make a conceptual idea of how that the soul or phenomena work, I think that every single phenomena is bound up with every other single phenomena, kind of like how the mind works, right? Like I'm sitting outside right now and I can see stars. Those stars don't exist anywhere other than my perception, right? So my mind is bound up with all of the phenomena that I perceive, and my mind is nothing other than the sensory information that's being bound up with all the phenomena that's coming into my indriyas, my senses, and that is what creates the levels of consciousness according to the Buddhist philosophy. You have 5 levels of senses that can perceive things. Then you have like a discriminating consciousness, like a 6th sense. Then you have a 7th level of consciousness. What's the 7th one? I'm stupid. I can't remember the 7th one, but there is like a foundational level of consciousness called the alaya vijnana, which is clear and kind of is like the repository of all these like sensory impressions. But the thing that does distinguish Buddhism from Hinduism is that and it seems really simple to me, that you don't reify, you don't objectify phenomena into independently existing things like a Brahman or an Atman or a self or a non-self that might exist independently. Things are constantly interwoven with one another in a way that it's just impossible to grasp at a self. It's impossible to grasp at an independent entity.
So what is the practical goal here? Just to quiet the mind, just shut the hell up for a while and just enjoy it, and realize that maybe that's the stars in the sky that you're seeing. Maybe that is just for you, and just to enjoy that as the gift it is.
Well, yeah, the practical goal is to quiet your mind and to have some stability and peace in your mind. So I think that the reason why that we have troubles or klesha, the reason why that we have poisonous attributes that cause us suffering, is because we chase after things that we kind of reify into really existing. We think that they're independently existing entities, and we chase after them. But there comes a point of like, you know, in Buddhism called like enlightenment, where where your mind your mind doesn't accept the existence of any independently existing thing. It's seen as dependently originated. It's seen as something which is interwoven with the fabric of all other things. So you kind of gain a strength to understand phenomena in the way that they really exist. And then it's not like you become like a nihilist, right? I want to deny all of existence.
That's almost what I want to say.
But
From a lot of these conclusions, you can either go your path or you can go like total solipsist and think that like you're the only thing that exists, and that can be very dangerous.
no, it's not. Well, solipsism would be to say that that would be another mistake. Like there's extremes that generally people believe in, nihilism or eternalism. They believe that phenomena exist independently and don't change, or they think that there's no phenomena at all. But to say that solipsism would be that that there's a really existing person in myself that and all other people are not really existing. No, that people exist in this way, like Indra's net. They reflect me, I reflect them, and we're constantly reflecting each other. So, but understanding it in that way, it leads to like a higher higher, more subtle way of interacting with the world, because I can choose to accept things or to not accept things, like if it's good or if it's bad. If something's evil, I'm not going to cultivate that. But if something's good, then it doesn't matter whether that I guess that that kind of objective good thing, like love or compassion or morality, if it's objectively good, even though that it's imputed upon this kind of illusory phenomenal web, if it's good, then I can cultivate that. And that's exactly what the middle way is about. You understand how the phenomena works, and then you kind of gain discriminating awareness by not being led astray by your ignorance, just chasing things that don't exist.
Going after
And
some
when you
demiurge somewhere.
Huh?
Going after some demiurge somewhere. Something of your own creation that traps you and ensnares you.
Hey, well, that's the Matrix, man. Yeah.
I hear you.
Well, the demiurge, I guess, would be the ignorance, like Mara, that thinks that phenomena are objectively real and doesn't see them in their true essence, which is essencelessness.
Yeah.
So again, my point is like how you don't fall into solipsism or something like, or nihilism with this, is that when you're free of being when you're free of chasing phenomena from thinking that they're objectively real and being overcome by them, which is what samsara really is, then you're free to decide for yourself what's good, what's skillful, what's helpful, what is good for you, what's good for other people, without having to be controlled by it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, what is your recommendation for people right now who are looking for spirituality? Like, what is the path? Do you just jump into the deep end like this, or what should normal people do? Should they just go to church? Should they just stop worrying so much about it?
I would my recommendation for anybody that would like to live a more spiritual life is meditation. Absolutely, meditation is it. Meditation is the main thing that has helped me become a totally different person, helped me become a more enlightened person, helped me to become a more compassionate and virtuous and moral person as much as I can. So meditation is what you want to do. And it's a very specific type of meditation. You don't want to meditate in a way that you're just trying to feel better or feel more relaxed or more calm. That is not meditation at all. That is just I don't know, that's getting high or something. It's not what meditation is about. What meditation is about, from my experience and also from the Buddhist orthodox teachings, is there's two processes of meditation. They're called samatha and vipassana. So samatha is concentration. Samatha, to me, I explain it sometimes like, imagine like you're going about your normal life and you're living in like a really busy city area, like New York City or something like that. You have all these people screaming around you, crazy hobos and bums, and people doing parkour and cops going around. So usually in your life, you're just like, your mind is just like all over the place. Your monkey mind is just all over the place. It's fixating on all of these distractions. So samatha concentration is like, say you're in like Times Square and then you go into Trump Tower and you go up in an elevator. You go up in this elevator. And once you like go into the elevator, the noises on the street, they become a little bit softer, and eventually they become, you can't even hear them. So now you're encountering the thing that you were using to fixate on distractions, which is your awareness. Now you're becoming aware of your own awareness. So your mind is like doing this thing, which in the Lankavatara Sutra talks about like this revulsion upon the basic substratum of the eighth consciousness, the alaya vijnana. your mind is revolting upon itself. It's turning back on itself, and your awareness is becoming aware of your awareness. So now you have like a little bit of a space in your mind, and you can do this. Like I would recommend to any of the people listening. I have some guided meditations on my channel that are good, but I would definitely recommend you want to leave your ego, and by ego I mean your house. Your ego is like an extension. Your house is like an extension of your ego. You want to leave like your familiarity. Go outside, find like a stream or like a park. Find like a nice tree somewhere in the forest.
Cutting out.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, find somewhere that you're gonna be away from all of your attachments. Go find a tree somewhere, or like a river or a lake. Go out into nature somewhere. Sit down, focus on your breath, and get to a point. Just by focus on your breath, sitting with the proper posture. You want to keep your spine straight. Just focus on your breath, and you just by doing that, you'll feel an amazing transformation happening, because this clarity of your mind isn't anything created. It's your natural clarity. The problem is that we're so obscured. Our minds have become dirty. So you're not creating anything new. You just want to go outside. Go outside, go find a tree somewhere, go find a river. Go outside where nobody's gonna fucking bother you. Don't bring your fucking phone. Focus on your breath, and you'll be amazed at the clarity that you'll experience. So that's like samatha, concentration. So you won't feel like that awareness that you are being drawn into the monkey mind of, oh, I have to do this thing, I have to do that thing, this, that, da 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 da, my emotions, my thing, da 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 da. All of that will go away.
When your biggest distraction is that, damn, this breeze feels good. You're going to a good place, I feel like.
Absolutely, yeah, that's really nice. But again, it's not about feeling good. So when you get to this like state of samatha, of concentration, it's like you are in New York City, you're in Times Square, and all the crazy people are like distracting you. That's your mind and your worries and shit. So when you go up into the elevator, then you're not hearing them anymore. And you kind of discover that your mind is originally very clear and peaceful. So then the next part happens, which is vipassana. Vipassana means insight.
Cutting out, bruh.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, so vipassana is the next element of this. So when you discover that your mind is inherently clear and peaceful, the way that these worries and troubles like affect you, it's like that they're like it's like that they're downstairs, like on the ground, and you're like elevated, you're like in this high rise, you're like on the top of the skyscraper, and they don't really they can't pull you into them anymore. You don't become overwhelmed by them. So even the very basic experience that you're not that you have the capacity to have strength in your mind where you're not overwhelmed by your worries or your emotions, even that is an incredibly empowering experience. And even more so, vipassana, or insight, is that you realize that those things that you thought were so important, yeah, they can be important, but those things are just like, they're illusions. Not to mean that they're not real, but they're illusions in the sense that like you're this like grand magician that's conjuring them up for yourself, and you are personally like overwhelming yourself with Maya. You're overwhelming yourself with these illusions. So when you can experientially understand that all of this shit that you're so worried about, that defines you and causes you to have rebirth over and over again because you're chasing them constantly. When you can experientially understand that you're this magician that's conjuring these things up for yourself, just uncontrollably, that insight, that vipassana, that insight, that phenomena are inherently essenceless, that in them being essenceless, they still exist like magical illusions. They arise within the mind, they cease within the mind, and you can't really find the point at which they arise and cease. That insight into that nature of your original mind is what Buddhist meditation is all about. And then you'll be able to make conscious decisions about, what you want to feed your energy into.
Yeah. And I think this sort of, I don't know, this fortification of your own will that's going on here. Like, these are the qualities that make a person like capable of leading others. I think there's a lot of people. Am I right in that?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, if you want to be able to really make a positive impact on the world, and we're talking about like the magician here, and I think like magic, in the sense it's like fortifying your will to control the will of others, to shape your vision or whatever. But that's not exactly what we're talking about here. But I do think if you want to really make a positive impact on the world, you have to have a strong will. And a lot of people aren't starting with that. They're trying to fucking cut in line, and they can't do that because their will's not strong enough.
Yeah, no, totally agree with you. Unless you arrive at a point in your clear mind where you're not overwhelmed by the wills of others. Yeah, there's no question of being a strong person that wants to make change in the world.
You have to clean your room.
Good.
You have to clean your room and wash your penis first.
I have a fucking dirty fucking room. Flame, do you have any thoughts on any of this stuff we're talking about?
I did miss out on a lot of it, but you're talking about cultivation of the will right now.
Yeah. Unbending intent. You know how it is.
Yeah, there's a lot of aspects of that, and it is very hard in the Western hemisphere, especially we live in a world full of rapid gratification. Everybody wants instant gratification for everything, and it's funny because like in the Agora book that you're talking about, like the guru mentions a lot about like how Westerners will come and learn tantric meditation and stuff, and just like instantly go out and like try to use tantric sex and stuff. Just like instantly, they learn like a thing or two, and they go out and try to do it
immediately. If you want to hear more Agora at the Left Hand of God, check it out. It's a playlist on my channel. We talk about a lot of similar things to what's going on here.
Good stuff. Yeah, and like things like that, they take a long time. Like it is a skill. I would say it is a skill, and it's like I hate to gamify it, but it's like almost having like a power level or something. Like you must temper your will, and like in shamanism, like tempering the will is through like meditations. It's through ritual takes of sacraments, like drugs and stuff like that. Like these things are the ways that like the primal spiritualist, the mystic, has tempered his will, like shattering his consciousness and rearranging it.
Flame comes from a much more shamanistic approach. Now,
that's fine.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about Tantra, bro, I've been a tantric practitioner for like 8 or 9 years. I didn't even like. Yeah, through this whole conversation, I've not delved into Tantra whatsoever.
I hear you. And I don't know how many more hours we want to sit here. And I think that's really good content that I absolutely want to do.
I'll gladly talk to you about Tantra like on another podcast. But
we definitely gotta do it.
Back to just talking about basic meditation. So I don't think that anybody really has willpower unless like real willpower, unless they can arrive at this process where they're not controlled by they're not overwhelmed by their passions. And this is really what the more like Zen kind of approach is about, is getting you to a point, or the Mahayana approach, getting you a point where this is how this has happened with me. And we were talking about how that I went from a Hare Krishna into a Mahayana Buddhist. When you kind of depuzzle like these puzzles of how that phenomena exist, then you kind of arrive at a very clear level of mind, which is egoless. And from that point, like that's the basic unconditioned structure of how the phenomena come into existence. A lot of the times you'll see some metaphors or references in Buddhist philosophy about how that the mind is like space, how that the mind is like the clear sky, that it becomes obstructed by clouds or space. For example, space can phenomena exist in space, but space is not tainted by phenomena. So to come at that point where you're actually able to experience your mind clear like that, it's very complicated. And the way that we do it in Mahayana Buddhism is to kind of arrive at these inconsistent consequences of the way that we as human beings generally think about phenomena. Like we talked about the investigation of time, for example. That book, Mula Madhyamaka Karika, it goes into a lot of things. It talks about like how that we think that the self is permanent and independent. And so arriving at the end of these logical puzzles by investigating them and deconstructing them, what that does is that it allows you to experience your mind in its unconditioned state, like space. So that's like kind of the basic point that you arrive at, and then like building your will up upon that, and what you're gonna do when you arrive at your mind in that level. That's where you kind of get into the whole willpower thing, or or what you want to do with it, like how that you want to carry yourself after that. And I don't think you can really believe or carry out any moral activity or any real really moral actions unless that you're really clear-minded and understand that your moral actions are coming from yourself. They're not coming from some other person that's like controlling you. I don't think you can even be a really religious person until you arrive at that stage.
It's like you gotta watch out for the culture, like the culture that you were born in will try to force these things on you. To go on.
But when someone wants more, all of this can be very silent, and a lot of this reminds me of bhakti. And when we talk about these things, we talk about I or you should or this and that, but that's really the problem. And I think with bhakti yoga, you're meant to think about God all the time. Everything is about God. I think a lot of that is to get rid of that I or you or that I don't know. I think what's you're talking about, like clouding your will and that sort of thing. I think that's what's doing it largely.
What do you mean by clouding your will? What do you mean by that?
But if you still have an ego, if there's still something left in you, you're not going to reach that point where your willpower is never going to be an extension of the supreme will.
Well, I believe it's like, it's like the paradox of control is what I call it. It's giving.
That's why you need. Yeah. That's why the mystic-student relationship is necessary, because then it helps you attach the word "I" to something other than yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
It helps you to be able to separate it, and then later on completely extinguish that I.
Yeah. Well, like what I was saying is like going to like the paradox of control. It's like we want to have like control over ourselves and all these things, and that's where the ego, the what do you call it?
Yeah.
Like it's like the operating system that takes over. It's like the default operating system. And when the ego takes over, it's like us, like it's the wanting of control all the time. But the paradox of control is like, if you're able to give up that control, in turn, you have more control than you have ever had before. And that's where like destroying the ego and becoming one with Godhead is that your will is coincide with His will. There's no
and
there's no distinction between.
And I feel like a lot of the stuff we're talking about, it's that is like right on the brink of what Shakti is talking about, but it doesn't quite. Oh, there's just too many damn words. It pisses me off. It frustrates me. I feel like a rat in a cage, brother.
Well, that's your ego sneering at the words, man.
Maybe.
From my experience, I think what happens with when you deconstruct like these kind of logical inconsistencies is what happens in Mahayana Buddhism. I think that's not the end of the path. Like a lot of people think that that's the end. Enlightenment or samadhi, that's the end of it. No, that's very much the beginning. And what happens after that is, and I don't want to go too much into it because I would love to talk to you, Yak, on another podcast about some of the really
we basically set up part 2.
Bro, really like a lot of the deep mystical experiences that I've had like after this process in Tantra, just insane. And I think what happens after you like deconstruct this stuff is you get rid of not necessarily get rid of, but you get rid of like the human kind of clinging to the human concept. You get rid of like your societal norms, and then what you're left with is the divine concept. So like the Godhead, like you said. So you end up in a state where the only thing that you can really relate any experience after that to is things which are beyond like the human realm. You end up with a mystical experience of things which just could not possibly make sense to human beings, and you end up relating much more to that. I was listening to a lecture from His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and he was saying that he was talking about Tantra, and he said that through this kind of tantric process of sublimating the vital forces in your body and arriving at what we call like the clear light mind, what ends up happening is that you stop identifying the I or the self with your body, and you start identifying your I with this called like Prabhasvara or like clear light mind. And that level of identifying yourself with this clear light unified with bliss or compassion, you enter into like a whole nother like nirvanic beyond human existence, which fashions your morality and your willpower in a totally different way. And that's where you become like, the Mahayana ideal of like a bodhisattva, of a person that is existing on a totally different plane and living to liberate other people.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
That's how you saw.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Is like you could try to help as many people, but I feel like it goes out one ear, not the other. But
I've said it a bunch of times tonight. I think I don't know if I've said it on here or not. I feel like that is a cosmic joke that is, once you get it, is like a gift to you. That your experience of God, it can't properly be translated in words to another person. It is uniquely yours, and like that, it drives me crazy. But I love that I don't know. I love that I feel like certain things are gifts to me, whether it's the stars in the sky or it's my particular appreciation for this text or that text.
Well, I agree with you, Rowan, in a certain way, but I was listening to somebody read the Platform Sutra, which is a Zen Buddhist sutra, the other day, and what they were saying is basically that the mind seal of the Buddha, like the enlightened like seal that was transferred into China by Bodhidharma before the Zen patriarchs, it's transferred like wordlessly. It happens wordlessly. It's something that doesn't happen at a level that we can perceive generally. It doesn't happen on a mental level. It doesn't happen on a human level. But the Sufi guy might understand this more than I'm talking about. But when it comes to something divine, like transferred like that, it's something that happens at a level that is just beyond anything that you can imagine conceptually. It happens at a very inner divine level. So that kind of ties back to what we were originally talking about. When I had my first experience with meditation, where this like kind of cosmic like bolt of energy like hit me in the head, like I can't put that into words. I can't explain that.
Yeah.
And then being able to transfer that thing to other people just by meditating with
My
them.
my only
It's nothing
experience with
conceptually.
that sort of like that sort of experience that's just transcendental. All of my stuff like that is on drugs, so I try not to bring it up
Yeah,
too
yeah.
much. I try not to go full Joe Rogan tonight, but that is very much that's been my experience, and those are the times when I find myself
Yeah.
laughing for an hour over the fact that I feel like I've comprehended something that I'm gonna forget, and I can never tell to anybody else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely, definitely.
I can
So,
always come back to it. It's always there.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like not everyone has a experience. I feel like when it comes to like sacraments, using sacraments, is that it's like rolling the dice. You're never gonna have the same. You're never gonna have the same experience, nor like the the abilities that you get from it are gonna be the same. Like for instance, like seeing auras, you know, experiencing those kind of things. Like some people are able to get into a state of consciousness without these things, these substances. But yet again, sometimes they accidentally trigger in some people. It's always a dice being rolled.
so I would love to go into like the more intimate mystical experiences that I've had with that kind of thing. Like literally in higher realms, bro. Like literally. I would love to talk about that, but I think that should be like another podcast. Like,
Yeah, I think that would fit well more with the tantra stuff. I think this was
Yeah.
all like a 101 of stuff that's like well beyond 101 in the first
Yeah,
place. So
the topic was Krishna.
no, this is better though. We can do Krishna anytime. This is better. I like this.
all right, so next podcast, bro. Look, last year of my life, I've been practicing tantra for the last 10 years, but I've had some just things that that have been on par with that first experience that I had with the divine energy coming into my head, like in the last year. That go into like the six yogas of Naropa, and like things that are just not even human at all to do with tantra. So I've been into like I've been literally like in deva realms, like literally physically and verbally talking to devas, like I'm talking to you right now. I've been talking to devas like uh in certain like kind of experiences in the last year. So I would love to get into that if you want to talk about tantra on another podcast.
Yes, yeah, that'll definitely come up. Probably winding this one about down. We can stop recording soon. We can chill a little bit.
Probably.
All right, dude. Remind all the people where they can find you. You should send me the link so I can drop it in chat. Is also what you should do.
To my YouTube channel,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Shaktipat Seer 2. Let me send you the link.
Absolutely. Oh, tonight has been very enlightening, and I enjoyed this talk. I can't wait to go heavier into weirder stuff. The weirder stuff is where I thrive. It's where I like to be, swimming about in the muck like the animal I am.
Yes, to become a sperm once more.
Oh God, living on my own. Don't need no
That's why
woman.
that's why we do tantra and drink bodily fluids.
the Agori Vimalananda would say that he drank scotch and he only got the good effects, and that all the poisons within it were transmuted inside of him using alchemy into soma, and he would reap the benefits.
But
of
there are tantric, and I'm sure Shakti's already familiar with this, where you drink vaginal fluids, where you drink semen.
There's a lot of weird rituals.
There's other schools that drink blood.
Oh, I mean, I talk about in when I'm reading Agora. What is going on here? Here we go. When I'm
Well,
reading
you know,
Agora,
they're
he talks about. Go on.
Sanskrit
my
means
bad.
water.
Go ahead, dog.
You're cool. You're cool.
Sometimes kunda also refers to like a pond, something like that.
Yeah, you're reading Agora.
Something
My
that
bad. I didn't mean to
holds
interrupt you.
water.
I don't know what this audio is that's coming through. Who's
water.
that coming from? Is that Flame?
Sometimes the channels which comprise the
What the hell's going on right now?
body,
Is it me?
subtle
Yeah,
body.
I don't know. Someone's playing something. Whatever. We're closing this down. We can figure out this mystery once
He's
we're
hearing
fuck
the
off here.
voices. Let's go.
Maybe one of my. It's
What,
probably one of my tabs, one of my million tabs. I dropped the link in the
Probably.
chat.
Consciousness
Make sure you click
and
on
the
that,
flowing of
everybody.
the subtle
Yeah,
Oh,
go
yeah,
go
yeah.
subscribe to my channel, bro. The more that I get positive reinforcement from you guys that are subscribing to me, the more that I'm gonna make some like epic content. But
Based.
yeah, bro, you were talking about drinking blood and shit. So tantra is a really weird thing, and there's a really especially in Tantric Buddhism, like there's a big difference between Hindu tantra and Buddhist tantra, and we have a whole like 1,000-year-old mythology about it and why they're wrong and we're right. And of course they're wrong because they're evil black magicians, and we are tantric bodhisattvas that want to use tantra to uplift people and compassionately. So that is a big fucking difference. Like we're not gonna drink blood, bro. Like that doesn't happen. If we did drink blood, it would not come from no, we wouldn't drink blood at all because that's violent and that would not happen.
There is a martial aspect to tantra, and that's what
This should be saved for the next episode
the
too.
Baron was into.
Let's do it, bro. Next episode, let's
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about
yeah.
tantra. Let's talk about
Yeah.
tantra next episode.
Yeah.
for
Absolutely.
sure.
So everyone go to yakobees.com, hit all the links therein, hit that merch tab, buy that shit, patreon.com/YakovAlive. Everyone check my shit out. And like I said, I've got the playlists. I read Agora at the Left Hand of God, which is the first book of a trilogy. I'm halfway through the second book right now. Playlists are up. Check that out. And there are stories from this Hindu tantric tradition about meditating on dead bodies, having a jackal come up to you and turn into the goddess right before your eyes, being drunk as hell on scotch, turning it into something holy. It's a really interesting book, and you should check out those videos. Yeah, Maud?
You can find me on Facebook at Angrim von Ergen Sternberg 2, after my favorite Tantric Buddhist, the Mad Baron. And you can find me on Twitter at Fremen Jihadi, where I do like anime reviews. Shit.
Flame.
You can find me on Noble Raider on Instagram, Tick Shaman on TikTok, and I don't even know all my other shit.
We'll get it
But
out there.
I do-
At a time.
Yeah. But Yakov, should we talk about the free T-shirt thing?
Free T-shirt thing. We haven't
Yeah.
formulated the free T-shirt thing. Do we have any ideas for how we should handle the free T-shirt? An
You're
art
saying
contest is
some
what I
sort of-
want.
yeah.
Anybody send in
Yeah.
artwork, and if you're the only guy who sends in artwork, you will win the free T-shirt.
Here it is. I have it right here. See, that's a free Skinwalker Gang T-shirt.
Hell yeah! So send us some artwork, and like I said, one person sends it, which is totally possible. You get a T-shirt, bro.
I'm wearing it. I'm wearing one right
Oh
now.
hell yeah, dog! That's dank.
And crack.
Yeah.
All right.